just gonna put my foot on the floor and I'm not lifting till I see God or a checkered flag.
Hello and welcome back to Racing Thoughts and IndyCar Podcast. I'm Meghan Dennis.
And I'm Meg Taylor.
And we are back here, another episode. Sorry, we are a week behind in getting this out. Meg moved, which is exciting, but makes logistics a little hard. And we're coming back from California and our own trip to Laguna Seca at the time we normally would record, which also, makes it a little hard to record from an airplane.
A little bit.
It is what it is on that front. We are doing the best that we can. The reality is both of us are about to start school back, which plays a whole role in it too. But,
we're doing what we can. And thanks for the patience while we kind of get ourselves sorted. But here we are.
And I don't know. I think this is going to be one of our episodes where we just kind of talk and see where things come out. We'll discuss the races that we've had since Iowa and the news of good, bad, and the very ugly that has occurred over the last few days. And we only have 3 races left, which is crazy.
Just wild.
Crazy.
I cannot believe that we only have 3 races left.
IndyCar ends this month, and then we are off until March.
That's too long of an off season.
It is.
I'm sorry. I'm all for giving them a well-deserved break, especially after, 5 races in a row in July. That is such a long break. So many things can happen.
Well, it ties into some of the news we already have, and we can start there, or we can start on the bigger piece. I'll let you decide, but it has to do with Fox and the fact that the NFL season's starting.
Yeah. I mean, again, I understand why. I do. But I am selfish and I want racing all the time. But, that's obviously not feasible and that's not safe or healthy for drivers and teams. So, again, well-deserved off-season, but it just feels too long.
Yes.
So This is just me complaining about it. Nothing will be done. Nothing can be done. I get it. But this is just me complaining.
All right, where do you want to start?
Since we already kind of started talking about Fox, let's talk about that massive Fox deal that came out. What was it, last week?
Yeah, last Thursday? Yeah. On your birthday.
On my birthday? Oh my God, that was. Yeah.
So that's also another thing. Meg had a birthday, so happy belated birthday from the podcast.
Thank you so much.
All right, so as we all know, however we feel about it, feelings can be mixed on that one. Fox came in as our broadcasting partner for IndyCar as of this year. There's been some really good things that have come from that. There's been some not so great things, especially in terms of streaming. I will say it has been announced that Fox will be coming out with a streaming service that I believe is set to launch in 2-3 weeks, or right before the NFL season starts. It's going to be $20 a month. So still definitely more expensive than Peacock, but in comparison to, the cost of Hulu Live or YouTube TV or cable television is significantly cheaper. I don't know any other details into that. I haven't looked into it, but I think that's just, worth noting that I did see that earlier today. But to touch on what Meg was talking about, Fox has now acquired the Fox Corporation, so big total Fox everything, has now acquired a third of the stakes in IndyCar. What does this mean overall? I'm not in the Fox Corporation. I'm not in Penske Entertainment to really know the ins and outs of what does this mean. I want to think it's a good thing though for a couple different reasons. With that, I think the first is the fact that this is showing that Fox is dedicated to what we're doing here, to IndyCar continuing to grow, to their continued investment in being part of the sport, which I would think them owning a stake means it should only continue to get better. It also, I think, for those who are in the camp that Penske owns too much and that's a conflict of interest, that is now being broken up at least a little bit, because, this is not just them coming in and saying, oh, we're a partner, but they're now owning a large stake of IndyCar. And that includes the Speedway and the series.
Yeah, I am definitely in the camp. I mean, I've made this very clear in previous episodes and throughout, the past year that we've been having this podcast. I don't love how Penske kind of has the monopoly over everything within IndyCar. So the fact that Fox has kind of broken that up, I thought was really fantastic. Based off of the article that is from IndyCar explicitly, they said there's like three main points that they want to kind of have for growth. And first one is innovative and industry-leading racing and entertainment events, a hyper-engaged digital strategy, an immersive content focus, and then enhanced promotion and star-building opportunities for IndyCar series drivers. I think that last bullet point is kind of interesting because we've kind of talked about, this fits in with what we've talked about with like the boy bandification of IndyCar and how we've had some criticisms on the fandom within IndyCar, at least in our spaces that we have seen and noticed online, whether that be Twitter or Instagram or Tumblr or wherever it might be. And that's going to be really interesting. That is a very slippery slope of that can be really good to kind of launch drivers into a more publicly known sphere of things. But then what does that mean in terms of, all right, what's the accessibility of IndyCar going to be like? How are these drivers going to be treated by the general public? Which again is something that we have heavily criticized and have had our thoughts on. So while yes, I think it's a wonderful thing that Fox is really, really dedicated to helping grow IndyCar, I worry that it's going to be, I don't want to say to the detriment of the integrity of the series, but it might. I think it's going to change the essence of what it is as a series, which as a fan, I am struggling to grapple with because I'm like, I love the series as it is and I don't want it to change, but I also know that from like their perspective, they need to change and they need to do something different in order to grow. But I'm like, I low key want to gatekeep it so that we can just have our niche little corner of the universe there. But obviously that's not going to be feasible. And we want it to grow and continue to thrive and for other people to see how wonderful this series is. It's going to be very interesting is what I'll leave it at.
And I agree with everything that you just said. And honestly, some of the stuff you talked about, I do want to talk about when we discuss our experiences at Laguna as well, because I think that ties into some of the things that like I at least saw and felt over the weekend.
Yeah, 100%.
But we'll get to all that. I think this is something I feel like we've been saying a lot with IndyCar, but it's kind of one of those wait and see situations of like, we know this is happening. We don't know what it's going to mean. I mean, if you go back to this podcast, when it was announced that Fox was taking over, we were very, very skeptical of what that was going to be, and it didn't seem like it was going to be a good thing. And I will say, I feel like I can eat my words on that one. I don't know how you feel on that, Meg. Of like, I did not have high hopes. And is there room for growth? 100%. We know this, but like, it's definitely like, it's been a lot better than I think I expected it to be.
Yeah. And we've also given Fox their credit with how they have listened. And we've talked about this over several episodes as well, is like they have listened to our criticisms online and they have addressed them and they have changed certain aspects. And, as the series continues with Fox, I think this deal is going to be part of those things that will help enact those changes that they have recognized. So that's kind of where I'm hopeful of how things will go with this new partnership and this new ownership split. But yeah, I don't know. I guess, as we have said many, many a time on this podcast, I guess we will see and we'll loop back when we find out more.
Exactly. All right. You want to get into the ugly news that came out later last evening?
Yeah.
Yesterday evening, not last evening.
So as of yesterday, which is August 5th, Tuesday, the Department of Homeland Security put out an AI image of an IndyCar. And let me pull up the actual tweet and thing itself so that I'm not misreading anything. Okay, so yes, as of yesterday, which was Tuesday, August 5th, we had the Department of Homeland Security on like Twitter and Instagram create an AI image of an IndyCar that is running past what looks like a detention center, and with the caption, "The Speedway Slammer." And the part that people are really, really upset about, myself included, is the fact that the IndyCar that they chose to use, it has an ICE livery, and the part that pisses me off is the fact that it has the number 5 on the car, which, as we all know, is Pato O'Ward's number, and he is the only Mexican driver that is on the grid. And if you have been paying any attention to literally anything that has been happening in the past few months with this administration. We know that they have been doing raids and they have been deporting immigrants and even legal US citizens who are just so happen to be Hispanic or Latino, whatever. And it has kind of created an uproar within the IndyCar community about the fact that this has been created and put out into the world, that I think it's pretty clear to see the correlation between the fact that they have an ICE livery speeding past a detention center with the number of the only Mexican driver on the grid in this current climate, specifically towards Mexican people within the United States. My background within teaching has been working within those types of communities. And so, one, this is very personal for me just because a lot of my students and a lot of my students' families have been personally and directly affected by all of this. But then also you go and you see my favorite driver is now being thrown into this conversation kind of without base. And I understand that there has been a kind of semi-statement, I guess, that has come from IndyCar. And I fully understand that, this is a very touchy subject. Fully, completely get that. And they are making a statement that said, "We were unaware of plans to incorporate our imagery as a part of today's announcement. Consistent with our approach to public policy and political issues, we are communicating our preference that our IP not be utilized moving forward in relation to this matter." That is by far the most PR lawyer statement ever, in the sense of it's saying something without actually saying something. And for me, I don't think that's enough in order to address what actually is going on and the implications that that image has, not just within the current political climate, but also within the space of IndyCar. However, I do know that there are certain things that you can and cannot say legal wise, and I'm sure that there's other stuff that is going on behind the scenes that we are obviously just not privy to. I just don't think that this is enough of a statement to really condemn what has happened. It doesn't really address the elephant in the room of the fact that they're using Pato's number on an IndyCar with an ICE livery driving past a detention center. That is just unacceptable in my eyes. And that is kind of where I land on it. And I know a lot of people have created a lot of uproar on social media. And I mean, you got to kind of feel bad for Pato. I feel like he's being thrown into a lot of stuff kind of against his will with this. And then last year with the Mark Miles thing, it just is kind of his name is kind of getting thrown around because he is, one of the most popular IndyCar drivers in the series. But this is entirely different. This is something that has real consequences. And I worry about what those consequences might be moving forward. It's a tough subject to talk about. It's really hard.
It is. And I mean, first and foremost, I agree with what you're saying, and that it's disgusting. It's, all the actions being taken by this current administration are fully condemned by this podcast. Let's make that very, very clear. I think from an IndyCar standpoint, it's very tricky, to be honest.
And I can recognize that.
In the sense of just this is not the series that did this.
No,
And
absolutely.
I think it's very easy for people online to say, and this is not me approving this, I think not playing devil's advocate, because that's not the right word, because I do not agree with any of these actions, but I think maybe from I don't have the right word to describe what I'm trying to say here, because I very much don't want this to sound like I'm trying to defend any of this, because I'm not. But I think there's been a lot of rightful outcry on socials, and you're saying, oh, it's the Pato fan base. I think that's honestly a smaller part of the bigger part of this. There's implication there, but I think from an IndyCar standpoint, a fact that it has been, I haven't seen a single media person try to just ignore this. It's been everybody making a stance on it, which is very important. It's not just fans, which again is very, very important, that this is being said of this is not okay and this is not acceptable. I think from an IndyCar standpoint, the problem that runs into is that, like, one, it's a legal statement, and I think we will probably get more in the sense of, like, we do have cars on track, this week, we have stuff going on, but I think the fact that we have to remember that Doug Bowles is an attorney. He is a lawyer, so, like, I would genuinely like to think there's probably a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes that, like, if they are trying to make sure that this is taken down properly and there's stuff actually happening, which we know is hard to do against this current administration. They purposely have made it where law and order and the truth of the law does not get to exist the way it's supposed to. I think if IndyCar's trying to do what they need to do, then that maybe makes it harder to make statements that we as a fandom want to see. And I think maybe that's something that as a fandom we do need to keep in mind, because yes, it is one where, like, I would love to see them come out and say, like, we fully condemn every single bit of this. I don't know, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to pretend to know what that side of things looks like, but I don't know, if they are able to say more than what they currently are at this moment. I think, it's also, you have to remember who owns the series and where he is shown to land with things, and I don't know if that plays a part in this at all either. But I think it is important to remember that this was not the series who put this out. This is not the series who is standing on this. And, while it is the most PR statement you can make, it is one that it is very much clear, like, they are not standing for it. And I don't know what, from all sides of things, it looks like for them to be able to say more as a series, if that makes sense on what I'm saying there.
No, it absolutely does. And I mean, like, I even acknowledge that by saying there's definitely stuff that's going on behind the scenes that we are just not privy to. But, I think you bring up a very good point about, all right, who owns this series? And, this is also just, I think, motorsport and, elite athletics in general, like elite sports. It is a game of money. And it is unfortunately kind of, there's not a single facet that you can kind of explore within sports that is not corrupt in some sort of way because of money. Like, every sport has, the really shady deals that are going on with different companies and sponsors and people in charge and, like, all of these things. And, in order to enjoy sports the way that we do, you do kind of have to separate the sport from the ethics of it, which is getting increasingly hard to do, at least from my perspective. And, again, I understand Doug is a lawyer. I am sure that he is doing work behind the scenes that we are not privy to ensure that this kind of stuff doesn't happen. And I also am well aware that this is not coming from IndyCar whatsoever as a series. Again, the fact that everybody that I have seen online has been making a stink about this it's encouraging to me that this is kind of where people stand. And, if we had this situation happen, let's say in, like, F1, I cannot guarantee and say with confidence that everybody within, the online space would be making the same kind of uproar as everybody is on the IndyCar side of things. That's not to say that people wouldn't. I don't know. That is not, obviously the case in this situation. But I am very encouraged that these people on a consistent basis have been making such a statement about it, and they're mad and they're upset and they are condemning this. But I personally would like to see more be done in terms of a statement from other people. And again, that's just something that I don't even think is going to happen because of, again, the legal background noise that's going to be happening. And so I think this is for sure going to be one of those long game delayed gratification things, maybe, of like, all right, I have to have hope that this series and these people that I think are just generally good people and want to do the right thing are doing the best that they can in order to make sure that those types of things are addressed. And I would like for down the line to see that. That's going to happen because I am a very skeptical person. I am a person that I don't want to say, I hope down the line we get that and put all of my, eggs in that basket. I want to be able to say with skepticism, like, I'll believe it when I see it. because I am a person who is like, all right, actions speak louder than words with this kind of thing, which is again why I'm like, I don't love the statement, but again, we know that there's stuff going on in the background. So I'm hoping that delayed gratification is what ends up happening. But again, I'll believe it when I see it.
I think the reality is I kind of expect this to be it. I don't want it to be, but I think it's going to be, because it's also as much as we have been seeing the public outcry, I am quite certain, from going to races, from knowing what the typical kind of motorsports space looks like, there's probably also a side of the fandom that, like, I'm very thankful to not be on and not be seeing, and definitely not be seeing from big names, but there are people who are probably, like, in support of this. And the unfortunate reality, and going back to your point of, like, sports are business, sports are not ethical. And if you think sports are ethical, or there's an ethical consumption of sports, I'm sorry, you are living in a lot of like pretend land. And that sounds mean to say, but that's the fact. Like, sports cannot be ethical.
There's no ethical consumption of literally anything under capitalism, just point blank, but let alone sports. Again, there's so many sponsors that are from companies that are super icky. And like, for example, I have had to grapple with my favorite soccer team in the Premier League having, Middle Eastern oil money coming from a group that is really, really not great over there, but I have had to kind of suspend that in order to support my team. Do I like doing that? No, absolutely not. But again, there's no ethical consumption of sports anymore. There's literally not. There's exploitation. There's, money that's coming from terrible places and terrible people. It is just what it is, if we're being honest about it.
Yeah, I mean, look at the AI sponsors that we've had on liveries this year. Look at the big tobacco companies that sponsor teams still. Like, that's just as bad too, and that's a whole nother thing. But like, I think it's, again, would I like to see more? Yes. Do I think it'll happen? No, because IndyCar, as much as, we are seeing the public outcry from a lot of fandom space, there's also that other side that we know exists. And IndyCar is not going to outright condemn it at the risk of alienating fans.
But yet, isn't that what they're doing by not really addressing it? Like, it's a double-edged sword of like, damned if they do, damned if they don't kind of thing. But it's like, what are they going to sacrifice in this situation?
And that's the reality of it. Like, there's not going to be there's a happy medium, because again, it's, at the end of the day, it's a moral thing, and that can't be applied to capitalism. That can't be applied to a business setting, and it is a corporation. And again, this is not me supporting any of this. I think it's just me wanting to point out the realities of what's happening here, and making sure that, as much as people are saying like, oh, they need to do more, okay, cool. Like, the reality is it's probably not going to happen. I will say, if for anyone listening who really feels strongly that IndyCar needs to say more, and I'm hoping maybe we will get more, marketing at IndyCar.com is the email for their marketing department. Feel free to reach out. Send a nice email, though, because these are people just doing their job. These are not people, again, IndyCar did not make this. If IndyCar was out here slapping this stuff out and supporting it and putting it on, be fully up in arms. 1,000%. But like, if you want IndyCar to say more, if you want to make sure that they are, and they are, but if you want to know that they are seeing more than just what you're saying, send a very nice, professional, polite email about it, voicing your concerns.
Yeah, you're going to get a lot farther with them if you do it that way versus outright anger. And trust me, I'm a person who, when I saw this, I was like white hot with rage when I saw it. Meghan can attest. I was like, my gosh, it still grinds my gears. But you can be angry with it, but then understand that the avenues that you have to go through in order to enact change. Outright anger isn't necessarily going to be the best way to do it, especially because this isn't coming from IndyCar. They're doing the best that they can. And again, I am sure that there's a ton of stuff going on behind the scenes that we're just not privy to that, they're doing.
Like I said, I wanted to be very clear. I'm not trying to show support. I think it's just like
reality check.
Yeah.
It is what it is. That's why I'm also like, I'll believe it when I see it.
And
I would like for it to happen.
I think it's a reminder too of like, people, make sure you're putting your anger in the right spot. This should not be an anger at IndyCar. Yes, they should probably do more. This should be an anger at the government.
Yep.
Call your senators. Call your representatives. Like, yeah, I know at this point it feels like it does nothing, but
it actually does.
It does something.
It does a lot, guys.
As someone who is in a red state, I have gotten calls back from them and gotten to talk to some real confused interns. Again, be nice. Be nice to these people. Most of these are college kids who, like, are just trying to or get some credit for something. And if you're nicer to people, a lot of times they're going to listen a lot more than if you go out angry. So just, I don't know. I guess that's my big point on this of like, I fully condemn this and I would love to see IndyCar blatantly say we do not stand in support of this. I don't think that's going to happen. So if you're going to be mad, you're going to be angry, make sure you are directing it in the right spot.
Yeah, 100%. Ugh.
Anyways, willpower?
I hated that, talking about that stuff, but my God, it has just been taking over, and it's important to talk about, obviously. All right, want to talk about willpower?
Always want to talk about willpower. What a strange man.
He's an alien. I love it.
He is an alien. Have we actually talked about my theory that he's an alien on here?
I don't think we have. Let's do it. We need some comedic relief right now.
Just gonna leave it at that. If the people ask for it, I'll expand more. But for now, all you get to know is willpower is an alien. And if you don't believe me, you're wrong.
I mean, just like meet the guy once, and
see him once.
Yeah,
see an interview with him. That's all you need. He's an alien. Anyways, the rumor mill is continuing to discuss what in the world is happening to willpower for next year.
Who knows? We don't. That's for sure.
Exactly. I wish we knew.
That would be cool.
I think I want to know. I guess it depends on what the outcome is. So, following Laguna Seca, the rumors of the paddock were saying to seem to be the idea that willpower is going to be out at Penske. It seems to change though, because after Toronto, they were saying, "Oh, he'll be staying." So I don't know, which is really honestly frustrating when you consider he's the best performing Penske of the year to be the one that's most likely to be dropped from his seat.
I mean, fair. I mean, are they looking at like historical data? Because I haven't looked at historical data over the past couple of years with, you know, the three current drivers lining up against each other over the years. But I don't know, man.
I don't know, but that sounds like a fun graph to make. I might make that later. But
you're welcome.
I don't know what goes into it other than if it's HMD Motorsport money. That might be playing a game in there. I honestly don't know. But the latest rumors are that Will is not going to be renewed this year, and then the rumors are also saying that he could end up at Andretti.
That's interesting because, all right, so from what I've seen with like all of the Andretti stuff over the past like couple of weeks is really confusing because we have seen specifically Marcus Ericsson and his performance over the past 2 years has been lackluster, for lack of better words, I guess. And so his seat is the one that's always been the one that's in contention with rumors and stuff that's going around with Andretti.
And I believe he is up on contract this year, but don't quote me on that.
Yes. It's either at the end of this year or next year. I want to say it actually might be next year because there were statements that had been made, and I forget from who, that were saying, no, his seat is fine through 2026. But then there's other rumors that now Will Power might be coming to Andretti. And there's, there's always speculation about Ericsson's seat because of his performance. But then we get the statement saying, no, his seat is fine. But
see, that's only been one source that I've seen say that, oh, he's confirmed for next year. So I'm very skeptical on that.
I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea.
And it's not as, like, no offense to the person who put it out, but, like, it's not a media person that I would be like, okay, I fully can trust this. Yeah. It's a rumors mill.
Yeah. But that's silly season all the time. It's just rumor mills. IndyCar is, like, very different from the F1 space, where I feel like in F1 you hear rumors that end up being true months later. But with an IndyCar, I feel like we get a new speculation or a new rumor or a new story every other day that contradicts the last one and that contradicts the next one. It's always changing.
Frustrating thing this year is, like, unlike last year where, I had a full, like, spreadsheet of, like, this is silly season, this is where people are ending up. I don't feel like we even really know who has open seats.
No.
Like, this year, and I think it's the addition of, like, a multi-year contract. Well, is that 2 years? Is it 5? Is it 20? Like, how long are you here?
No, it's very true. Everything is really vague and rumors change and, it's weird. Yeah. I don't even know how I would feel about Will Power being in an Andretti. I don't think I would like it. I don't know. Kyle Kirkwood and Will Power being teammates after their tense race weekends would be actually kind of hilarious. It would be chaos, slightly dangerous maybe, but could be entertaining.
See, here's the thing with the alien man. I don't know if he knows he's on a team. I just know he knows he drives race cars and has his team. So I don't know if it really matters where you put Will Power.
Yeah.
Curious to see what happens with the Verizon sponsorship. If that's because that's been with him his whole time, like his whole time in IndyCar. And to see if that were to stay with the 12 car or if that would go with Will Power. And if that's the case, that's even more reason for these teams to want to sign him. Because, I mean, Verizon, if you think, used to be like the title sponsor of the whole series.
Yeah.
Clearly, they've dialed the money back over years, but that money is still there.
The money's been consistent. Would he take his number with him?
I thought you couldn't do that in IndyCar.
He was kind of the exception because he's Will Power.
Because David Malukas in the 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel right. No, that doesn't feel right. But then you have like an Andretti number 12. That feels weird too. That's weird. Okay, so
Penske, you have to re-sign Will Power. I think that's the decision we've come to.
That's what this has come down to, is Penske, sorry, you don't have a choice. You have to re-sign him.
It doesn't work anywhere else. So if Will's not ready to retire, you have to keep him.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Like, he is too synonymous with the Verizon and the number 12. He can't work in any other space. I don't know.
And there's probably other news stuff that I am forgetting, but I did a real bad job of writing stuff down for this episode.
We've had a busy 2 weeks. It has been insane. So the fact that we talked about 3 big things, I think we're good. All right. Well, do we want to talk about maybe a little bit of Toronto?
Yeah, sure. So
Pato wins.
Pato wins. I was going to end there, but we can start on that one. We had a very fun podium. We'll start backwards, I guess.
We start there.
Yes, Pato won, which is great. It was really good for the title fight until it wasn't, because, spoiler alert, Alex Palou won Laguna. And if he finishes 4th or higher at Portland, congratulations, Alex Palou. If he finishes, he has finished 2nd or higher in Portland, and he will win this weekend. If not, he has to finish 4th and higher and just show up for the next 2 races, and he will win.
That's annoying.
That's the season. That is Alex Palou. But yeah, we had a really fun podium at Toronto. So
it was great.
Pato won at what has statistically always been his worst track, so good for him. Renus 2nd, and Kiffin Simpson got his first ever podium, so good job, Kiff Dog.
Yay. And I do want to throw this in there because we had a really good laugh about it before we started recording. I was putting the podium in our little notes, and my phone autocorrects Kiffin's name to Muffin, and I'm sorry, that's just now how I have to think of it. I'm sorry, he's a muffin now. He's a little muff. It was a really great podium, though. Like, seeing Renus and Kiffin, who are just, like, historically are wonderful drivers. They're incredibly talented. And specifically Renus, I am so, so happy that he was able to stick on the podium and, like, in a car that really shouldn't be up as high as it is, but he is just that talented and that good that he's putting that car that high.
The reality is, we've been saying all year of like, the Del Coyne car shouldn't be that high. Well, if it's that consistent, at some point you gotta say, like, it can't just be Renus.
I mean, who's in the other Del Coyne car? I'm gonna be honest, I forget.
Jacob Abel. No, that's not me discrediting Renus by any means. I think that is that is part of it, but you can't have that much consistency and it just be the driver.
No, and I think here's the thing, is that you make an excellent point, but I'm more so talking about the fact that it is Like, I now consider that to be like a top tier midfield car.
I mean, Renus is 11th in the standings right now.
Yeah. Like I would call that car like a midfield car, like one of the higher midfield cars. But I'm more saying, like, to put that kind of car that's consistent within the midfield up on second in the podium, that's more so, I don't want to say surprising, but impressive.
Yes.
Like, I am just blown away by how impressive that drive was from Renus.
Yes, 100%. And his and Kiffin, they were on the same strategy, and it was a strategy that no one else used and shouldn't have worked.
It really shouldn't have, no.
And so, like that is not me taking away from Renus by any means, because, like, I agree. I think it's just one where it's like
they both made the strategy work.
Yeah. I think just what we can't say is like, oh, it's Renus is outperforming the car at this point. I still think there's a factor of that, but I think we cannot discredit the Dale Coyne car the way we could have in previous years.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would like to see, I mean, is Jacob Abel confirmed for next season?
I have no idea. Maybe.
If he is, I would hope that we would see him kind of more along that progression as Renus is, and having more of a midfield car, because he's really not performing in that same category.
Jacob's dead last by
Yeah, like
chunk.
he's not, but again, you also have to maybe give him benefit of the doubt of rookie season, but that's an iffy argument, whatever. I don't know. But whoever is in that second Dale Coyne car next year, I would like to see be more comparable with Renus's car in standings, in races, and all of that stuff, just so that I can confidently say, yeah, it's, that's the level that the car is at. Because honestly, for me, I believe that Renus is the one that is fully putting that car where it should.
Like I said, I do think that's a large factor of it.
Yeah.
I just think, like, it can't happen consistently like it is, and it not be like, Dale Coyne's clearly done something with the cars to be able to get more than they previously have. Yeah. And I think it's also bringing in the guy for Renus's strategist, whose name is escaping me at the moment. Sorry, dude. I think your name might be Mike. Or it might be Brian. I think everyone's strategist is named Brian.
Yeah.
That's an inside joke from Laguna. But yeah, so Toronto, fun podium. Yeah. I want to talk about Alexander Rossi and how his day came to an end, because, like,
that was the weirdest thing.
I'm mad about that, quite honestly. So, like, for those who don't know, he crashed and, like, completely, like, his car would broke. That's the easiest way to say it. And then it wasn't he brushed the wall and it was a talent issue. And he posted a picture on his socials where there is, like, a good, like, inch and a half of, like, space where the two parts of the wall for the track are supposed to be together. Where very clearly something happened in the make of this track. And whether it got brushed in one of the practice things and it pushed the walls apart, or whether that was just missing the construction, because it is it's a temporary street track that you have to go up quickly. But that it was a scary crash that could have been a lot worse very easily.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Alex himself said that he has not had a crash that bad to do that much damage to a car since he crashed at the Speedway, if that really says anything.
That says quite a lot, actually.
And just that, regardless of when it happened during the weekend, it's unacceptable that that is happening at the tracks, in my opinion, because that goes back to our feelings on safety of, like, it could have been a lot worse very easily.
We're happy that it wasn't worse, but, we can't rely on it's probably gonna be fine. Like, we don't mess around with probably fine when it comes to driver safety. And it felt like such a minuscule chance that it could have ended so poorly. And it was just strange and bizarre, because so many other drivers, I feel like, brushed that wall too, and it was fine. It's like 9.9 times out of 10 you can brush that wall and you're fine. And then it's like the 0.01% chance just so happened to be Rossi. And it ended up, like, destroying his rear wheels. I'm like,
his whole suspension. It cut the suspension. Like, that's just
I don't
crazy.
even understand the mechanics of it. And I'm like, ay.
Yeah.
But that just kind of unfortunately fits in, I feel like, with Rossi's season.
I think the other big thing from Toronto is that Santino Ferrucci did not start the race. I will say, honestly, though, it did come from he crashed during warm-up and, like, injured his hand pretty badly. And again, for the notion of safety, regardless of how you feel about Santino as a person, I am sorry that he got hurt.
Yeah.
You know, we saw him at Laguna and his hand was still bandaged pretty heavily.
Yeah. It was big enough that he required, not just being wrapped up and bandaged, but I mean, any race car driver is going to do everything that they can to race. And so the fact that he didn't even participate says a lot about the severity of his injury, I think.
Well, it was that, and also they just couldn't get the car back together. Like, the car wasn't enough damage. Like, it was on top of his injury. It was not worth it for the Foyt team to try to put together that car.
Yeah.
So again, regardless of the fact that how we feel about him as a person, I am sorry to see that he didn't start, simply because I don't want to see people injured.
No, absolutely not. None of us want to see anybody injured, regardless of how we feel about them. But he didn't race in Toronto. Okay, I think that kind of covers Toronto. Do we want to talk about Laguna and our experience since we were there?
Let's talk about our first weekend at a track that wasn't in the outskirts of Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah, so we went to Laguna Seca. That was honestly, overall, I thought it was an incredible trip. I think the track itself has been one of my favorites for as long as I have been into IndyCar. And so I was really, really excited to actually get the chance to go and see the track. The experience while we were there was so wildly different from us being at Barber that I had to be like, okay, I have to tamper expectations and kind of put Barber into its own separate box, because I was like, no, this isn't what I know and love from what I've experienced at Barber, because it's such a different beast.
Yes.
There were so many more people there than there were at Barber, which I guess is to kind of be expected. But there were a lot of like sponsor tours and sponsor groups that I thought was really interesting. Like, I know NTT had a group. I know Aero had a group, which is like Aero Electronics for McLaren. They had a group, and there were a bunch of other ones that were just like the very classic walking tour with a paddle being like, follow me, let's go this way. And to your right, you'll see. And like, that's kind of what it felt like walking past those groups. It was strange. I don't quite know how to classify walking through the paddock in that area.
Well, I think that comes from, that's the big difference between, I guess, like Barber and Laguna Seca. And honestly, I think probably like a lot of the other racetracks, from my understanding, is the fact that like Laguna Seca has an open paddock. So you buy your ticket for the weekend, you have paddock access included in your ticket. Whereas for Barber, that is an additional thing that you have to purchase. And from my understanding, is something you have to additionally purchase at most of the other tracks that we go to. And so I think that automatically really changed everything, because a space that is like usually a little bit more limited access was accessible to every single fan who went, which is not a bad thing, but made it very different from what we had previously experienced.
Like, when we went to Barber, we had the fan zone where you could go and you can get food and drinks and merch and all of that kind of stuff. And that was in one designated area that everyone would have access to. Whereas in Laguna Seca, the fan zone was separated. There were still concessions that were close to the paddock. And then like the podium was right there as well within the paddock. So everyone had the chance to kind of go there. But it kind of surprised me how close together things were, and yet at the same time, super far apart. It felt very strange. Like,
kind of reminded me of a fairground, to be honest.
That is honestly a great way to put it.
Just the way that everything's very open. And, like, you can get to everything, like, which I guess would be interesting compared to, like, the Milwaukee Mile, which is literally at a fairground.
Yeah.
But
it also felt, like, inconvenient to get to, I guess, from, like, where we were sitting. where we chose to kind of post up in our seats, we were directly across from pit lane. So we saw all of the pit stops and everything and all of the teams on that straightaway there. But in order to get to all of the other things, we had to walk over a bridge, go down a bunch of stairs, and then there you had all of the access to the paddock, to some of the food and stuff. But then you also had to go over another bridge to get to the fan zone area.
Which is where like the merch tents and the job house activation stuff like that was.
Yeah.
Well, and the other grandstands too,
and the other
which was
grandstands too. Yeah. And I'm gonna be perfectly honest, like I love the corkscrew as an aspect of the racetrack. It felt like it was very inconvenient to get to. And granted, we didn't really try because it was going to be so inconvenient. It was all the way at the top of the hill. It was hot. We didn't want to give up our seats at the grandstand that we were in.
It was a very steep incline.
It was a steep incline on a dirt road.
But I also, I sat there, because I did want to go, and at some point it was just like, maybe if I just go, even sitting in the grandstands, I could not figure out how you got to the corkscrew.
Exactly.
I was just like, I mean, I'm sure I could ask the information dude, he'd probably tell me, but like, I'm like, where is this? How do you,
I also thought there was supposed to be a tram that helped you get there, but at the same time, I didn't see any trams running up to the corkscrew area. That was probably just like a research issue that we were not really kind of pushing super hard. Like it was more so like, oh, that would be nice and fun to go to, but we just ended up not doing it, which was fine. But we got to see a really good portion of the racetrack from where we were sitting, to be honest.
Yeah. And all in all, it was a good race. I like it as a track.
Yeah.
Can I get up on my soapbox of some of the issues I had, though?
Absolutely. Go for it.
So, and this is not me wanting to sound like there needs to be like an elitist approach of like the haves and the have-nots and those who can afford it and can't. I appreciate that the paddock for Laguna Seca was open to everybody. I think that's very, very cool and makes something that's usually an additional expense where everyone can have access.
Mm-hmm.
I think this sounds bad, but I don't know how else to say it. So if you can think of a better way for me to word it, let me know. But like, I think it turned into people not knowing how to act right.
No, 100%.
Like they're just like, what I would say is like, if these were kids I was seeing is like, there's no home training happening here. Because I guess maybe it's like if people are paying additional money, there's a lot more respect seen. And maybe I feel like that's what I've always seen. Mind you, again, our experiences come from Barber, and I know that makes a difference. But like, there's a respect to the drivers given a lot more. There's a lot more space. It seems a lot more controlled. Whereas like, I felt like that almost was lacking.
Yeah.
In that,
I think a perfect example was when like we were waiting around in front of the motorhomes to try and meet some of the drivers, which we had done previously, again, in Barber. Like there were aspects and sections where it's like, okay, if you stood here, you would be able to at least like take a picture. Sometimes you could talk to the driver for like a minute or two, and it's not as chaotic. Everyone tends to be like, oh, you can go, I'll go next, person will go after, that kind of thing. It used to feel very controlled like that. Whereas I stood in front of the McLaren motorhome, and the McLaren people were incredibly kind. They were really, really nice. I am throwing that out there. But some of the fans that did stand outside and wait around, the second that Pato showed up, people were literally like running and grabbing at him to get a picture, to see him. And I'm like, oh, this is insane behavior.
Yeah, well, it's like right before qualifying. Like, I mean, it's like 3 minutes before qualifying starts. He is trying to get to the track. People are literally chasing after him.
Like, he has a job to do. Like, this is his work. Like, why are we chasing after him? Do you not have like any, like, I don't want to say shame, but like, do you not have any shame?
Like, where is the respect to these drivers? And that is, I think that's my biggest issue that I had. And it's like, it was especially bad at McLaren, but you could kind of see it up and down the paddock to an extent, where it was like people were not respecting that these are humans. These are humans doing their job, and they don't, quite honestly, they don't owe you shit.
No. And like, I also saw a little bit of it when, like, because McLaren's motorhomes were right next to Andretti's. And at one point, Kyle was out in front of the motorhomes, and he was doing kind of like a meet and greet with some of the Andretti, like, special VIP people. And like there was a horde of fans who were again just like waiting like hawks to try and get a picture with him or to try to talk to him. And it almost felt like these drivers were in a zoo and they were like caged animals and people were like tapping on the glass. And it was like, that's not necessary. Like, again, this is their job. They have things to do, they have people to see and like places to be. We need to be respectful of that because then guess what? It takes one bad interaction with a driver and a fan for that to just go away. And I wouldn't blame them if that happened because why would you want to continue to like put yourself in a situation where something bad could happen because a fan is not being respectful or a fan is acting entitled, and it just can spiral. And this is something that we've talked on in a previous episode where we have talked about, you know, fandom space within IndyCar, and it just really drove home that point.
I want to also add something. If you are standing outside the bathroom to wait to get a picture with a driver or to get something signed by them, that is creepy. That's so
weird.
creepy. Like, I'm going to say it just like that because I saw that happen multiple times. And I'm like, let this person live. Like, they're just trying to do their job and go to the toilet. That's weird.
It's so weird.
But the crowd in front of the McLaren haulers before the race, if you had told me One Direction was in there, I'd have been like, yeah, I believe it. Because that's what this looks like right now.
No, it really was absurd. And like, again, I am very openly like a McLaren and Pato fan. I fit into that fandom space. However, we walked past it in the morning. We just kind of did like one singular loop of the paddock before we sat down in our grandstand seats. And it was mental. It was genuinely insane. It was one of those, I can't be here because I fear I'm going to have a panic attack from like crowd crush.
Yeah.
Like if you've ever been in like a GA concert or like anything like that, crowd crush is crazy because you have zero control, and that's what it felt like. And again, it's wonderful that there's that level of access to the garages, the motorhomes, and the paddock and stuff like that. It's wonderful because it really gives you an idea of what IndyCar in the world is like. And that's honestly what made me fall in love with the sport to the extent that I love this sport, is
100%.
getting to experience that, which is something that, you know, as an F1 fan, I never am going to be able to afford, you know, a general admission ticket, let alone paddock access. So like being able to go into the IndyCar paddock and see these drivers and see the teams and the garages and the cars and all of that kind of stuff made me love it. But it is crazy how busy it was. And like, we joke as well about our experiences in Barber where we've been honked at by like team personnel on golf carts, and we've almost gotten run over by, you know, the tire trolley. And all of a sudden I'm 2 inches away from, you know, Joseph Newgarden's car as it's going through the paddock. And it's like, those are exciting things. But then you also have to realize that there are personnel who are trying to do their job who are all of a sudden now being inhibited because of the amount of people that are there. Like, these cars don't have space to get through, not even just the cars, but, you know, again, all of the team personnel and like their little go-karts and buggies.
Well, and people aren't trying to make that space either. And that's I think that's my bigger, it's not the giving people access issue, because I don't want this to become an elitist thing, you know, with a sport. It's more the fact that it's the entitlement from fans where I'm like, that's not.
I don't have to move. I'm standing here. You can move around me.
Yeah.
No.
Or like, these drivers have to stop and give me their time. No, they don't.
No. Like, the amount of times we would see drivers like just zooming through the paddock and stuff on their little scooters, or they're running to get to places. And like, we would just be like, hi, like, what was it? I think it was Willpower and Scotty on Sunday.
Yeah, we saw them.
We saw them
come
like,
past
in
us.
one of the tunnels, and they had stopped, and then all of a sudden a larger crowd started to gather around them, and they just like zipped on by, and we were all just like, hi, and they waved right back at us. Like, that's all your interaction has to be. And
that's all you should expect at best.
Honestly, like, it's good enough that I'm like, we said hi to Scott McLaughlin. We saw Will Power, and we saw Louis Foster zipping on his scooter.
Louis wasn't stopping for anybody at any time. He was going so fast. You got in his way, he was gonna run you over.
And it was just kind of one of those, if you are kind and respectful to them, they are also going to be kind and respectful in return. And then there's not going to be this animosity between either one of you where it's like, I'm upset as the fan because this person didn't stop and say hi and like whatever, so I'm upset at them, versus the driver could be like, oh my God, this person won't leave me alone, and now I'm annoyed because I have things to do and places to be. And so it's like, it's a very delicate balance that I feel like was really riding on the edge of acceptable, if not stepping over that line at certain times.
I am genuinely very concerned we're about to see the ecosystem of IndyCar change with this upcoming year, and paddock access is going to get either a lot more expensive or a lot harder to come by for reasons like this, because it's the lack of respect to these people, the team personnel and the drivers, and the entitlement by I wouldn't even say a large portion of the fandom space, just a very loud portion of the who expect everything. And it's like, that is not how this works. Like, I hate asking drivers for pictures or to stop or anything, because it's not part of their job. Like, yes, it comes with the job description, but that's not what they're there for. And if they are there working.
Yeah. And I think we've had this conversation too, like you and I and Cass as well. It's just like, yes, it does kind of come with the territory for the drivers to like stop and take pictures and whatever. But again, you are not entitled to that. And because of that, you can ask in a way that is going to be respectful of, hey, would you mind if we took a picture? Like, you need to kind of be socially aware of what's going on around you. Like, I tried to get a picture with Pato. I knew that was never going to happen based off of how everyone swarmed him. So I backed off. I was like, I'm not going to be a part of that. And that's fine. We asked Kyle Kirkwood to take a picture, and it was at the moment where it was like, there's no one else around. There's still plenty of time before free practice or like whatever practice it was. And it wasn't like it was right before qualifying or anything, but it was one of those, hey, would you mind? Is it okay? And my God, thank you so much for stopping. We really, really appreciate it. Good luck today. And then that's it. Like, it does not need to be this whole big thing. And again, it's just kind of reading the room of it. Like, not every moment you're going to be able to stop and talk with them. And for me, yes, the issue comes with like the driver's portion of it, but what really bothers me is how inconvenienced team personnel are. Like, I felt so bad at one point standing in front of because it was McLaren and then Andretti on one side, and wasn't it ECR on the other side. So, you have some pretty high profile drivers that are there. And, waiting around, there was one moment where I felt so bad. I was just incredibly in the way. And every time I tried to move out of the way, I kept on being more in the way. And I looked at the McLaren guy and I was like, can you please tell me where to stand so I am not in your way? And he just laughed at me. And I was like, thank you so much. I feel so bad. I'm going to go away forever now. And it was just kind of like, I felt so bad because I was in the way of their tire mechanic who was trying to get the tires to the pit lane. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Let me move. And then he was like, I'm actually going that way. And I was like, great. Which way do I need to go so I am not in your way? And he was like, over there. Fantastic. Thank you. Good luck. And it's just kind of being socially aware of that kind of stuff. But it's harder when there's so many more people in the paddock. And I think this also kind of goes back to that Fox deal of, what is this going to look like next year? It's going to drastically change things, and I don't know how.
No, and again, I am worried this means we are going to get limited access, and it's going to become the haves and the have-nots, and I don't want that. And that's why I led with it. I'm not saying that's what I want this to be, but okay, no one saw a Pato Award. The most I saw of that man was him zooming on a scooter eating a cookie cake. Hilarious moment. But he was not stopping because he couldn't.
He physically couldn't.
For his safety, he couldn't.
Yeah, and if he did, he would be pawned at. And it was nuts.
Like,
It would have
just
been late.
yeah. So I
But
don't
there
know.
was
I think it's important for people to remember these are people first and foremost, and on top of that, these are people doing their job. If you at your job don't want people coming in and bothering you all the time and just demanding all of your time when you have other things to do, don't do it. And I say that as someone who, like, I'm a college
in
professor.
education.
My job is to be bothered by other people needing things.
I know, we're in education. This is kind of our job.
And which is why I think, like, we can, in some authorities, say of, like, be respectful.
Annoying.
Be respectful. Don't follow people into the bathroom. It's weird.
It's so weird. I can't believe people actually did that. Like, I remember you and I were waiting outside the bathroom at one point, and was it Louis?
Standing by Louis' scooter. Like, I didn't realize it was his because he just left it there. And I was like, I wasn't going to stop him.
No.
Like, yeah, we told Kiffin good luck. I told Scott McLaughlin good luck. But,
Yeah.
like, that was it.
That's
And
it.
even that felt weird where I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But all of this to say, if you do get the chance to actually meet the drivers and, you know, have that experience, be kind and also kind of be aware of what else is going on around you in that moment. You know, like it's one of those things. The amount of times we would just wave and say, hey, and that would be it. You know, we saw James Hinchcliffe on a golf cart and we waved at him. I also did heckle James on Friday. So if you're listening, James, that was me that told you to run in the style of Forrest Gump. Like, run, James, run.
James, I hope you got wherever you needed to be. Thank you for
Yeah,
that hilarious moment.
That was so funny. That honestly made my entire weekend. I thought that was so funny. You know, and stuff like that. I saw Helio Castroneves several times throughout the weekend and waved at him to the point where the last time I saw him, he was like, good to see you again, and like patted me on the shoulder. And I was like,
he probably thought y'all like were friends at that point. He probably just assumed he was supposed to know you.
You know what? Fair. But this is how I make friends. I just wave at people and I'm like, hey, I exist in your orbit. We know each other now.
Yep.
I did meet Alex Pillow.
You got a picture with him.
I did get a picture with him. Again, there was no one else around really. It was one of those, hey, can we get a picture real quick? It was good luck. He was so nice.
He's always so nice.
He's just like, he's a very soft-spoken person and just generally very, very sweet.
Also, speaking of sweet, soft-spoken people, Christian Rasmussen.
Oh my God.
We saw him once. We saw him about 80 times.
We saw him so much, but he's such a nice, polite human being. And I'm like, I just need to put you in bubble wrap and protect you because you're just so lovely. And I'm like, I will fight anybody for you. You don't have to do anything, kind, gentle sir. I will do that.
I don't know. I think all in all, I like Laguna. I'm glad I had that experience. The fog in the morning was weird. Track is beautiful.
Yeah. It is up a mountain, which I don't know why I didn't know that. But elevation is a big thing. I mean, like, obviously the track elevation is a big part of the, you know, lore and love of this track. I literally did not realize it was on top of a mountain. We had a rental car and it ended up being like a Jeep. And like on Friday, I had made the joke of, oh, thank God we got the Jeep because we had to do a little bit of off-roading to get to the parking lot.
Well, the parking lot was a field.
The parking lot was a field, but we had to go down, like, all the way up, you know, the roads to get to the top, but then the parking lot, we had to take
a pretty steep downhill
trail and then go directly back up into the field. And then, like, the field was all sorts of lumpy and bumpy and dusty and gross, whatever. It was pretty far away. I think that's a big difference for me between Laguna and Barber was how close our car, like the parking lots were in Barber versus at Laguna. And yes, they had trams and such, which was nice the first couple of days, but we ended up not even being able to take the tram on Sunday just
They
because
didn't have
there
enough running. They had like 2 versus like Barber has them coming like in rotation.
Yeah, it's like at Barber they have one every like 5 minutes.
Yeah, because you also cannot walk. I mean, you can walk Barber. Don't recommend it.
Don't recommend it, no. But you know, with the elevation changes, and as someone who has chronic illness where elevation changes and you know steep inclines can be incredibly difficult for me, it wasn't that big of an issue until race day on Sunday when we were coming back, where we one couldn't get a tram back up the hill to get to our parking lot. And 2, water access wasn't very good in terms of the grandstand area. Like, you had water access in the paddock. Great, wonderful, amazing. They had an entire water station. They even had like an electrolyte station in the fan zone, which was wonderful. That is, I use electrolyte as again, helps with chronic illness stuff. Is it my favorite? No, but it's wonderful that they had it. In the grandstand sections, you don't have that. There's no water access there. And at one point coming back, I was really struggling. And thank God you guys were chill with it. But like, we stopped outside actually the administrative office. And there was a gentleman there, and I was like, this is going to be such a long shot, but can I get some water, please? I haven't had any all day. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. Super nice. Allowed me to fill up my water bottle. Like, that was it kind of thing. But if you are going into the grandstand section, be aware that there's not easy access to water unless you go into the paddock, which is on race day incredibly difficult to navigate.
I concur. It's also, I think, if you're planning on going, just know, like, it's super foggy in the morning, but then, like, that burns off, and there's no clouds. It wasn't hot. Like, it really wasn't hot, but it was so bright.
Yeah, it was incredibly sunny. We all got sunburnt at least a little bit. My scalp has been peeling.
My hairline's been peeling for a week. Yeah.
So gross.
Yeah. So, again, that stuff, I guess, like, makes sense when you think about it. We just didn't think about it.
Yeah, like knowing my experiences with being, like, on a mountain from skiing, like, yeah, the sun is a little bit different when it's elevated like that on a mountain, but didn't realize we were on a mountain. But the other part I will say is getting in and out of, you know, the raceway, like the racetrack area, pretty easy.
Relatively, yeah.
Relatively
takes
easy.
Forever, but easy to do.
Yeah. And by takes forever, like, we mean that there's a lot of driving to get in and out. Like, it's not like, oh, it's one road and you're kind of in a parking lot situation where it's like, all right, you're stuck there. It's like, no, there's a lot of road to get through. And then once you're at the, you know, the entrance and exit of it, it's pretty easy to get out of and to get into. So that part I was actually pleasantly surprised about. I thought we were going to be stuck several times, considering the amount of people that were there.
Yeah. All in all, glad we did it. Glad can check it off. I don't know if I personally have a desire to go back again.
Yeah.
Just because, again, the area is very expensive. It kind of goes with the territory, but it was expensive weekend all in all. But, like, I'm glad to say I had that experience.
Yeah, agreed. Like, really glad that I got to see one of my favorite tracks. I don't think I need to go back, you know?
Well, we have more to check off.
So. Exactly. There's so many other racetracks, and, like, we have yet to go to an oval. So if anyone listening has a suggestion as to which oval you think we should go to, let us know. Because we're really trying to get to one next year.
I've been told the mile. That's what I was told.
That would be fun.
I also had 2 really cool experiences on the plane ride back that I just want to mention.
Yes, please talk about that. That was so cool.
So the first was seeing Joseph Newgarden. So Cass and I were on the same connecting flight to Nashville. And Joseph was just there. We didn't bother him. We didn't say anything, didn't ask for anything, because, like, absolutely not. But, like,
it was also like 8 a.m.
Yes, it was early in the morning, and again, just, I wouldn't have bothered him regardless of it. Like, you could tell he was just trying to get his coffee, get on the plane, get home. Also saw Stingray and his wife Molly at the airport, so that was kind of cool too. So it was just kind of nice to kind of see these drivers just be, like, truly regular people getting on a flight. So that was fun. But then the guy who I ended up sitting next to on the plane worked for Chip Ganassi. I'm not going to share his name or any info about him just for I don't know if he wants this out there, but works for Chip Ganassi and had his championship ring from last year in his backpack and actually pulled it out and let us hold it, which was just really cool and not something you expect to ever happen, like just on a flight. So that was really cool. Just kind of, to wrap up a weekend where, like, again, beautiful weekend. The whole area down there is beautiful. The race was a really good race. I don't think we even touched on it, but it was a good race. Alex Flo still won, but and by a lot. But the rest of the race, very entertaining, honestly.
Minus the caution that took 2 laps to come out in a very dangerous spot.
Well,
that we
more
were
than
all
once.
Mad at.
Gosh, yes. Okay,
2
so
laps.
you
Was
have
it Erickson?
Well, you had the issue with Renus, but Renus was off in the gravel. That should have been thrown sooner, but it was less likely of him getting hit. But
Yes.
Marcus Ericsson was stopped on the track on a blind corner, so he couldn't fire it back up. And it's one where because it was blind for him, and it was also blind for the drivers coming over the hill there. And it took 2 laps for them to throw the caution, and it's just like, it's because they wanted to finish the pit cycle. I don't care, IndyCar. All it would have taken was someone getting squirrely coming over that hill because it was green flag conditions and, the wind was bad. It moves him over and Marcus Ericsson's getting T-boned and somebody's getting severely, severely injured.
Yeah. It's also like, it's the blind corner, but it's also the conditions because, as you mentioned, it's windy, but Laguna Seca has a ton of sand and dirt that make traction and grip incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And
it's very deserty.
It's very desert. It is basically in the desert. It's all dust and dirt. And you combine that with windy conditions, there were snaps that were happening all over the place. Like the amount of times that we saw just like in the distance in other parts of the track from where we were sitting, just puffs of dust coming up. Because again, that just happens. It takes one of those. And all of a sudden, Marcus Ericsson is just totaled. And, again, have your feelings about him as a driver all you want. He is still a driver. He is still on that track. Literally, that should have been a caution immediately, or at least very, very quickly, not taken 2 laps. And this has been
pit cycles be damned. Like,
who cares when it comes to driver safety? And this has been something that was talked about. I'm pretty sure James had mentioned something and was like, I can't speak my mind because I still want to have a job.
Yeah. Well, Rossi talked about it on Off Track, and then, that was James's, was basically just like, I can't fully say what I want to say because I work for it, but, the general consensus, Connor said the same thing on his podcast, the general consensus from everybody was just like, this is not okay.
No, it should have been better. And this is also something that we had talked about last season. Was it Toronto last year when there was that massive, pile up? And the caution didn't come out until a lap later or a significant amount of time had passed.
It wasn't as long as this was. It led to that bigger pileup because somebody went into the wall in turn 7 in Toronto, and then it led to 6 cars getting involved into it because they threw the yellow too late. I think that was more dangerous because more cars got involved, and luckily Marcus Ericsson was completely fine. But I think this was a worse situation in my opinion.
Yeah. No, 100%. They're bad in very different ways. And this goes back to what we were saying earlier, even in this episode, of we should not ride on the chance that it's gonna be fine. You should be, having these things happen and be overly cautious on the off chance that it's not fine.
Well, and with Renus, for example, it ruined his race. Them waiting to call it meant that they couldn't pull him out of the gravel. He'd done it the first lap instead of waiting till the second. They could have pulled him out and he would have been able to get back around and not been however many laps down. He would have only been 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Just
frustrating when that kind of stuff happens, when it doesn't need to happen. Silly, silly, silly.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the word I want to use, but it's the word I'm going to use.
Exactly. Good job, James Hinchcliffe.
Thank you. Oh, that's so kind. You're comparing me to James. I'm honored.
Alrighty. Are we done? Have we wrapped this?
Let's see. Yeah, I think that's it.
Alrighty. Well, follow us on our socials, Racing Thoughts Podcast, TikTok, and Instagram. Racing One Thoughts on Twitter. Congrats to Alex Palou. You've probably won the championship by the time all of y'all are listening to this.
Yeah, I guess. Congrats on being a super nice and kind and lovely person and winning yet another championship because you're a generational driver.
All right, we'll be back sometime around Milwaukee.
Bye.